Holding water, in the water we go. We talk about our future champions, swim techniques and Olympic strokes. Holding water, so much you will know about dolphin kicks, flip turns, dives, and how to find an awesome coach. Hosted by Brian Welter and Tyler Kearns. Holding water is where competitive swimming is learned.
Morning, everyone. Welcome. 16th installment of Holding Water. We're excited to be with you guys today, this morning. A new time for us today. Everybody's got a bunch of different things going on between swim meets and whatnot. Brian and I are both at a swim meet right now. We're taking time in between sessions to come to you guys, and just want to say thanks to everybody for joining us again. This episode, just like our last one and everything moving forward, we hope is going to be an age group focused webcast, and we're proud to be brought to you guys by Commit Swimming. Commit Swimming is our producers are giving me a hard time there. Commit Swimming software is a team software that helps you manage your team's training and performance. Commit is the most trusted software by thousands of coaches around the world, elite training centers, NCAA teams, club teams, high schools, you name it. 89 different countries have swim teams using Commit to write their workouts. And when I talk to other coaches about Commit, Brian included, that experience is clear that Commit Swimming makes your team better as soon as you start using it. So coaches out there, you can go to commitswimming.com to learn more about the app and sign up for your free trial. You'll be blown away by the power and simplicity of Commit, and we hope that you guys take that opportunity to go check out Commit. So coaches out there, we got a great show for you guys today. If you recognize the names North Baltimore Aquatic Club and Swim Atlanta, which if you're in the swimming game, it's pretty hard not to know those two club teams. They've produced some of our country's most celebrated and accomplished Olympians. And we got two fantastic coaches from those teams today to join Brian and I. So Brian, how's everything going in Texas, buddy?
Pretty good, man. We sitting at a swim meet. I'm sitting out back. It's nice out here. It's beautiful today. It's about 75 and a little bit breezy and pretty comfortable. So I was going to go hold up a Starbucks, but I figured I'd just sit out here on the back deck and chill out behind the meet. So we got some miles going on inside, and I got a couple kids that are a little miffed that I'm not watching them, but hey, they understand, they get it. Today I'm pretty excited. So on the Commit thing, I mean, Commit's a fantastic product. I can't say enough good things about it. I've been using it for 3 years, and it's something that has been vital to what we've been doing as a team and what I do as an everyday coach. So I definitely want to give a shout out to those guys and thank them for coming on board and sponsoring us. But on to our guests today. We've got two great guests, guys I've known. I actually don't know one. I met him. I actually talked to him last night for the first time. He's been in North Baltimore forever. He's a legend in the sport and a legend in the business. Tom Himes, if we can bring him on. And welcome, Tom. And then our other guest is a guy that I met back in 2007, I think at the Age Group Summit, or maybe 2009. And we've kind of stayed in touch ever since. He's been at Swim Atlanta, and he's done a great job, is Chris Davis Jr.
What's up, Chris?
Hey guys.
Thank you guys for taking time out of your Sunday. We were joking pre-production about coordinating all these schedules now that people are starting to get meets. And Tom, I know you and Chris both had either practice or a little mini meet this morning. Brian and I are at a meet right now. So tell us what's going on up in Baltimore, Tom.
Well, it's pretty tight in Maryland now. They're in the process of shutting things down. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can keep going. We're swimming outside, mid-40s right now. We went to the expense of heating a couple summer league pools because we had no indoor access or very little indoor access. So far, so good, going well. We've had a couple nights down into the 20s, but so far, so good. The water's a nice, toasty 78, 79 for the kids. So we'll keep going as long as they let us.
Chris, what's going on in Atlanta?
I mean, right now we're business as usual. We're still doing one per lane on each side, but we've actually been able to run meets probably for the last 5 weekends. We've had a meet with varying age kids. We had a kind of mini senior state level meet last weekend on Sunday, so we put our state level cuts on the meet and ran it one day, 3 hours, kind of rotating groups in. Parents seem to love the fact of a 1 day meet versus a 3 day meet.
We better be careful what we start advertising to people. We'll never get them back for 3 days again. So, Tom, how many kids are you guys running at NBAC right now?
About 250.
Okay. And Chris, how many kids are in the water for you guys?
At our site, we're right at 360.
Okay. So you guys.
What do you got total?
I think we're right at 1,300.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I know that's a challenge to get these guys ready for meets and everything. So we want to go into a little segment in the show that where we talk about kind of what workouts are going on for you guys and what that looks like and how you're modifying that. So we're gonna show our all of our viewers out there kind of what that looks like. So we're gonna start with our main set. So let's get started with Tom. Tom, that's going to start playing every day when you come on deck at NBAC. It's right there. It's going to be your intro.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
There you go. All right, Tom, talk us through this.
Yeah, so this is just one of a lot of various IM sets that I've either come up through stealing stuff from other coaches or just some things that work. We generally, which some do and some don't, we put our warm up on intervals. I like to see them swim fast a little bit during the warm up, and sometimes we'll do just a straight run through, and I'll do usually anywhere from 1,000, 14 to 1,400 maybe in a warm up, pretty long warm up. Then in this set, it pretty much goes through everything. It's a little kicking and drilling of every stroke, and then some fast swimming with 100 IMs, descending 1 to 4, and then 1 to 3, 1 to 2, and then finally the last one going all out. I've done things like this with various distances for the IMs. Even go 4 100 IMs, then like three 150 IMs, two 200 IMs, and then a 400 IM. But that's not usual because it's pulling teeth to get something out of something like that. And I think the amount of fast swimming done in this is to a good degree to where you can get some success out of having them swim the IMs fast, the 100 IMs fast, and then throw in some drilling and just some 25s in there too. So it's we get whatever you get at 100 IM, you get out of 100 IM, but we get some pretty good stuff there. And I also like, it's really important. It doesn't really say anything on here, but working just the transition between the strokes. I usually stress that between sets like this is just work that transition, getting from one stroke to the next stroke. That's pretty much that's pretty much the main set, and then we'll usually go into and throw in a stroke, and in this case we did free, and pretty much working on not so much drill. It is drills, but it's really phases of the stroke that they concentrate on versus drills. And again, something I stole from somebody else, but I thought it was a great idea in that it makes a whole lot more sense to work on these areas than it does to do a particular drill or whatnot, because they're actually working on doing the stroke and swum as the stroke is swum. So I go
Tom,
ahead.
is that like what you would call like directed swimming, like where you're just directing the particular part of the stroke, or is that what you're focusing on there?
And it's just they're basically swimming fairly easy. They're just really focusing on that specific part of the stroke each 50, and then I think it makes a world of difference. Drills are drills, and they're okay, but I mean, let's face it, most of the drills that are done aren't really how it's going to be done when you're swimming the stroke. And it might emphasize something, but this you can really emphasize a phase of the stroke, I think. And then we do a fair amount of kicking every set. In this case, it was besides the other kicking through the set, we do somewhere, I'd say 800 to 1200 fairly main set type of kicking set every practice, and that's that.
Swim down, huh?
Hey, yeah. Tom, when you're doing like that kick set, those 4 100s, 3 100s, 2 100s, and that at the end, if you've got a group of kids in your group that aren't necessarily ready to make all of those hundreds kick, how are you modifying that? Are you modifying yardage or intervals?
Yeah. I mean, I might put, well, again, to your point, I might have to, because they're pretty, we do a lot of kicking, and I think we have a pretty good kicking team. Most of the kids, at least in this group, can make those intervals. But to your point, yeah, I might have some kids do 75s instead of doing hundreds. Or we might have an A and a B interval, but I would more than likely cut down to 75s and let them be, let kids be a little successful with the intervals and whatnot, and
try to get the effort out of them.
Right. Which frankly is a challenge. I mean, sometimes I'll throw a set like this up at the beginning because it is a challenge when you get down to this. They figure, oh well, the practice is over. We just have to kick. So these types of things get started over quite a bit too. They're not taking it seriously. So, but
that's awesome. That's a good workout. So 6,000. You guys are an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hour workouts, right?
Yeah. This group of kids is hour 45 to 2 hours.
Cool. That's good stuff. All right, Chris, we're gonna have a workout coming from you at Swim Atlanta and your group. What group of athletes are you going to be showing us a workout from, Chris?
The average is from 11 to 14. A lot like Tom, I tend to warm up fairly hard. I try and take some of the aerobic interval threshold stuff, and I'll do in that 2,500 warm up and kicking before we go to the main set. I think in the last couple of years with the set, it's trying to do pace under stress. So if it's a butterflyer and you're going +5 of whatever your pace of your 210 flyer, you got to go 110 on 100 fly on 120, and then you got to hit pace, and then you got to drop below pace. So I used to do kind of a fair amount of rest with my pace sets, but now I found like it seems to work better if you can do it where you kind of tax them a little bit before they get into the pace, and then have them try and drop below the pace. So these intervals, this would probably be in the main phase of our training, and I'll drop the hundreds onto 130. I'll bump up the intervals as we get closer to a bigger meet. And then I do a lot of ascending warm down. So 100 on 105, 100 on 115, 100 on 135, 100 kick on 140. And we'll kind of go multiple rounds of that as kind of the finish off the workout.
So Chris, if you've got a right now, I think, did you say you guys have one per lane on each side right now?
Correct.
Okay,
we'll double up a couple bar pools and siblings, but for the most part, one per lane.
It's good. Are you seeing like kids when they're swimming pace right now? Are you seeing them kind of like have made a change for the positive direction in the paces that they've been able to hold since they've basically just been practicing for 6 months? Or are you seeing more of like having a hard time getting up to race quality?
I mean, I think within the last couple of weeks, we've kind of got back to where we can hold the pace that we need to hold. We did not transition kids in any of our groups until September 1st. So my group currently is kind of a new group where they would have moved up at the beginning of the summer. We did not transition any of our athletes. Just because we had a handle on the numbers on the groups and stuff like that, we did not transition any kids.
Hey,
Chris, we got a question for you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Chris, somebody was asking, can you explain the +3, the -2, kind of what you're doing there?
Well, that would be at 200. This set is designed for 200 pace. So if you're +3 of your 200 pace, you're still moving at a pretty good rate. And then I have them drop down to -2 for the 25s of their 200 pace.
So basically, you're just starting out a little bit easier, getting to pace on the 50, and then basically going what you can go on the 25s.
Correct. So, so if you have 100 fly on 120 and you have to go 110 is your +5, you're still moving a little bit on that 100 fly. You're still tired when you hit the wall.
So you go 110, you're ideally 32.5, and then on the 25, you'd be 13, 14.
Correct.
I like it.
Now, are you going straight through that 4 times and then taking rest before you go through the next set 3 times, or is it you guys kind of moving?
Yeah, I kind of gauge how the group is doing. I may throw in the 450s pace or something, or maybe 450s drill in between rounds. But if we're moving and everybody's kind of in a groove, I'll just run through the rounds.
Yeah, I like
the break after the 25s. Like, you give them 20 seconds, even if you're going between rounds, or do you just go right off of? You just go right into the 100 off those 20 seconds.
We're going easy 50 between rounds.
Okay. So you give them at least a little bit.
Correct.
Cool. I like that. I like the pattern. I'm all about some patterns and some pace swimming, and I like being able to drop down. Brian knows this. He's laughing at me. He knows he's seen my workouts enough to know I like a pattern, and that's some good stuff there, Chris. Are you how much of race quality are you doing? How often are you getting up at race pace a week?
I say we're doing it 2 days a week.
Okay.
Right now, we've actually had meets. Like I said, we've had meets for these kids the last 5 weekends. We've been able to run some sort of meet. Now it's a little different. We're just running 1-day meets. Except we got the opportunity to go to Greenville. MSA was there, Greenville was there, and we were there, and we ran kind of a Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, split the age groups. But I think this is the first time that we were able to race somebody that was not from Atlanta since March.
Wow.
So you said you've got five weeks you've been running meets. How are you doing that? Are you running the same event orders, or you change up your event orders every week to where they get to swim different events, or what are you doing there?
the weekend, 2 weeks ago, we ran just 500, which we were, with our facility, we had 160 kids swim the 500, and we were able to let parents come in, time, and count. So you got a 40-minute window of when you were going to swim the 500. You came in, you warmed up during that 40-minute window. Your parents came in right about when you were going to swim. One parent would time, one parent would count. So that's, I mean, for the most part, that was the first time we've had any of our parents actually be able to see their kids swim. Last weekend, we ran a 1 day on Sunday. We did A time for our 14 and under, and then we went our senior state cut for our senior kids. I think we had right at 190, so we were able to combine the two groups and space out the meet a little bit better.
Tom, what are you guys doing up there in Baltimore for meets and competition?
Well,
you doing anything?
We've been going to Pennsylvania until till last week that Pennsylvania decided that no out-of-state teams can come to Pennsylvania and swim anymore. So we went up to York Y a couple of weekend in October and then one in November, and went really well. Everybody sat outside. They were in specified swimmer areas, so there were no parents around. It was streamed live, so people could watch the meet from outside. There was inside were just the coaches, one heat in the water of kids, one heat would come in after they got started for the next heat, and then a timer, the electronic timing, so one person on each lane, and they filed in and out of it. It went really, really well, but we're sort of there's really no place in Maryland except a couple pools. A couple teams have pools that they can run a meet in. We really don't. We don't have anything, so sort of back to the drawing board, or as far as where, because we had some plans to do some things in December, but it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that now. So back to the drawing board again.
Yeah, we're running a distance meet right now, and we basically have about 60 to 80 athletes per session, and then we're letting the parents come in and count. This is the first time we've done that. But we're letting them come in and count today. So far, it went pretty well. We've kind of done the same thing as Chris was talking about. This is a distance meet, so it's 11 and over 400 IM, 12 and under 500 free, 11 and over mile, and then we're actually running a little 10 and under session at the end of it, just with some 50s and 100 IM and 100 free, I think. But we've kind of just varied up what we're doing. But we've had, same deal as Chris was talking about. We've had a meet about every weekend. I never thought 3 months ago I'd be tired of meets, because I was so excited to get back to meets, and I'm getting to a point where I'm getting pretty tired of meets. I'm ready to be training. So
yeah. Well, the meets we went to up there actually had I guess four different teams. It was spread out into 3 sessions. They were about 2-hour sessions, maybe 2.5-hour sessions, maybe. And I guess warm-ups, and then the warm-ups were good because we had to, we limited, the numbers were limited. There were maybe, I don't even know, I can't even say what the number was, but the warm-ups were we basically had 3, and in some cases 4 in a lane, but we had them starting at both ends for the warm up. So it all worked out pretty good. It's just, it started 7 in the morning and ended at 8:30 at night and went straight through to get everybody in. So it's, made for a couple long days on those, but it wasn't long for the kids. The kids, it was actually shorter. So.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said, Tom. It's made for some long days. I'm here at, you can see over here on my side, UWF. I'm here at the University of West Florida in Pensacola, and kudos to this university because they've done a fantastic job of allowing the club team to come up with some procedures that can be safely done to run a meet. They've got 480 kids in the meet, broken into 4 separate sessions, so 15 and over. 13, 14, 11, 12, and 10 and under. But the sessions are short, but you got to put an hour in warm up in between to make sure that you keep your lane space occupied to a low number. And so my daughter's 10 and under session tonight starts at 6:30 p.m. So we started warm ups this morning at 7 a.m. So it's definitely going to be a long day for the coaches, but for the athletes, it's going to be relatively short sessions, but they're allowing parents to come in one way and flow out another way. And they're on the far end of the 50-meter side of the pool. And we're swimming width-wise of a 50 meters. So it's been great. I mean, it's been super safe. All the athletes and coaches are wearing a mask and doing everything that they need to do to get up and swim, and also get a chance to race and get some normalcy in this. But guys, I just thank you all for sending those workouts in and for going through those with us, because I know that that's something that coaches out there from the question you got, from the pace stuff. I know coaches out there are trying to come up with new ideas and new ways to be innovative. I think that's something that, maybe a program like this or all the Zoom meetings that we've been having has allowed us to learn some new stuff and do some stuff different. Real quick before we move on, because I have a question I want to ask both of you guys, but just want to give another shout out to Commit Swimming for sponsoring the show. For those of you guys who don't know about Commit Swimming, it is the most simple and powerful workout management software on the market. It's designed for swim coaches, so you guys can go to commitswimming.com, start your free trial, and you'll see that you'll be more organized. And you'll see some fantastic improvement in your workouts and in your performances really quickly. But guys, all right, so you guys are from, Brian and I are swim nerds. We have 100% devoted our lives to this. We love it. And you guys come from 2 of the most successful programs in the United States over the last 20 years. So Chris, what's made Swim Atlanta so successful? What in that culture has made you guys become such a successful team?
I mean, I think with my dad and having 7 locations, he lets each location kind of be their own little location. So for Swim Atlanta, we don't necessarily have we're going to be a distance program, or we're going to be a sprint program, or we're going to do I think each location kind of trains differently, which allows the coach at each location to be successful in what they really like to do. We also have a lot of fun at Swim Atlanta. It's kind of a lot of bantering back and forth with the kids, and every day I think the coaches and the kids are excited to see each other. So them coming in every day excited, and we go in excited just to kind of have that, watch some fast swimming, work hard, kind of joke around. And I mean, I think that is the biggest part of what has made Swim Atlanta successful for since '77. It's that it's almost kind of like each location's its small little family, and then all the coaches on Swim Atlanta really enjoy hanging out with each other. So after every meet or at the end of a session, we'll go out and have a beer and have a meal, and we just all really enjoy each other's company, which I think helps a lot. It's almost kind of like being in a small fraternity of coaches. And I think last weekend was the first time we've had all our coaches together at the same time, which was you kind of realize how much you miss just being around the other coaches. Why kids are coming up to you talking about swims, and they'll tell you what they noticed. I'll tell you what I noticed, and the kids. I mean, it's just a really fun environment.
And I can attest to that because I've been to several meets in Auburn when you guys just walk over from Atlanta with like 700 kids coming into the meet, and then seeing like 10 coaches on deck, and everybody goes out to grab dinner after, you and Landon and all the guys, walking in there together. You guys definitely look like you are enjoying coaching together, and the kids always seem to get along. Is it a challenge for you guys to have so many kids from different sites that maybe not necessarily know each other really well, but are going to come together to swim relays and stuff? Maybe not right now, but
I do think that's a challenge. I mean, I think for the most part, since the coaches do them so well, that and we're always around each other at a meet, that all the kids, just by being around all the coaches, get to know the other kids. But I mean, it is a definite challenge of, would it be ideal if we could get all our top kids to swim 3 workouts a week together? I do think there would be a huge benefit for that. It's just, nowadays, I think parents are very into the convenience of where they are. So to drive an hour.
Everybody's shaking their head yes right now. Everybody.
Right. So to drive an hour to our location to do a workout on a Sunday when we can get everybody together safely, it's kind of like, well, we've had kind of a long week, and I don't know that they necessarily want to jump in the car for an hour to come to a workout. I mean, it's kind of hard to get that aspect of getting all our top kids together.
Do you guys have movement from site to site with kids? Hey, I don't like this coach. He yelled at me, so I'm going to go over to Chris's site because he's nicer and funnier, or is it pretty limited by the staff, or it just isn't a problem?
I mean, we'll have a handful of kids that'll switch sites, but I mean, like I said, it's generally, if you're within 25 minutes of the pool, you're not going to go 45 minutes to an hour to another coach from Atlanta.
Right.
They just Atlanta's got so many teams. I think we do run into, if you're not really happy with what the coach is doing, then kind of like the transfer portal and football, or even swimming, you just be like, okay, I'm going to go try something else. I didn't like the answer you gave me. I'm going to go to the club that's 5 minutes away from our club, and I'm going to try that out. Instead of, I'm going to work through whatever is going on, and we're going to figure it out together. It's just, okay, I'm going to jump and go try this.
Go find the greener grass.
Correct.
All right, Tom. So in Baltimore, you guys have not 1,200 athletes. You guys are, 250 right now, right?
Yeah.
But I see
and I go as far as saying some of our heydays we probably only had about 100.
Yeah, so you guys have between 100 to 250 athletes, but your name always seems to show up at the top of age group rankings and club excellence and all of those things. I mean, for 20 plus years, we've seen that. Obviously, you have a big part in that, but what is that culture and what's that expectation at NBAC?
Well, again, the culture of commitment and pretty much do whatever it takes is pretty much what we're all about. To the extent of it's also, you've also had to change with the times where 30 years ago, the late 80s, early 90s, everything was a lot different. I mean, one thing, there weren't girls didn't really have all these other sports to play. And it was I think it was much more blue collar back then than it is now. And getting into Chris's point, everybody wants everything convenient now. So you've had to change with the times and whatnot. And I think the key is to suck everybody into doing things like we used to do them before. And you just have to, I guess, walk on eggshells sometimes with some people to do things to get to that point. But, we take attendance and whatnot, but for the most part, the kids want to come to practice. And that's sort of the goal, is to convince the kids that they want to come to practice. And I think that's also, that's built by the relationships that the coaches have with the kids, and it's built with the, again, becoming part of the culture that was, there before I got there in '85. But it is a great. I mean, people come in there and the expectations are high. That doesn't mean we beat up the 8 and unders or anything like that. It just means we try to do the right things for them to get them as good as they can be, and they have a good time. They have fun. I go to meets and hand out rubber ducks and all sorts of dumb little bugs. They get it. It's amazing. And I got that off actually when I was gone from NBAC for a while, and apparently Tom Yetter started doing that a little bit, giving out little bugs and stuff like that. And, just some plastic bug that, you can get 8,000 of them for $10 or something. And the kids really get off on it. So it's sort of, just little odds and ends like that can make a huge difference. I think they have fun. I tell them, don't ever tell anybody you have fun, because everybody thinks that, we train our 10 and unders doubles every day and beat the hell out of them. But, it's teaching the parents and the kids what your expectations are at that club. And if you can do that, 90% of them are gonna join in and do it. And the ones that don't, it's like I tell the kids, have you ever tried bowling?
So Tom, you're talking about expectations. Like, how do you relay that? Do you do parents meetings at the beginning of the season? Is it just an everyday,
we, of course, this year's been a little bit different. We usually have a kickoff thing, and then we have a new parents meeting. And then after that, then we have another annual meeting in springtime. We don't have regular parents meeting, but after that, it's individualized, because, frankly, some of the parents meeting gets you in trouble because you're generalizing everything, and it may apply to this person, not to that person. This person's got these issues, and that's why I don't really get into, the word never can't exist, because there's always going to be an exception out there to do things. So I handle most, when I see there's an issue or a problem, we'll deal with the parents individually. And it's pretty well, we're very coach run. And, I've tried to be since I took over as a head coach, tried to be much more transparent than what was going on before. And that's really worked. That's worked well. And I'm a pretty straight shooter. They know that. And, I think you build trust from them to, so when they drop their kid off, they know their kid's getting treated right.
Are you guys a parent board, or is that team
on
that team, or how does that work?
Well, we're a not-for-profit, so you have to have a board. When I came in, they're in the previous years with the other head coaches, they had a pretend board, but not really. I wanted to start, just because the way things are now, you got to have, you need parent involvement. And we were running a lot more meets and things. So we have a board. it's sort of difficult. They help me with all of the out of the pool or off the deck things that we need help with. Right. They do not direct who I hire. I do the budget. Everything's done the way it's just run by the coaching staff, and it's worked really well. I mean, they've been really helpful. And then we also have an executive board. First off, the board is the quote board of directors is made up. Nobody has a kid on the team. So they don't have any special interest in it. Then I have an executive board, which really doesn't have much say at anything. They just say, hey, I say, can you do this? And that's all parents, but they don't really have, a say in much of anything. And it's worked well. I've often talked about, what a pain, and there's certainly, we've all dealt with parents that are just, they need to find something else to do. But at the same time, to be successful, you got to bring them into the program too. And you just have to keep them under control. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Chris, how do you manage that with 1,200 athletes? How do you keep all those parents under control with 1,200 athletes?
And talk to us a little bit about your structure too, because you guys are a little different than a lot of teams. You guys are, your dad owns that program, correct?
Correct. So each location has a site or a head coach, which basically they're in charge of that entire facility, from hiring coaches to handling problems to concerns that come up. That coach is responsible for all of that. Then if it should it need to go up the chain a little bit, my dad will step in to try and kind of help and navigate some stuff. But for the most part, everything is kind of controlled in-house.
And you guys have your own swim shops and the whole 9 yards. You guys, that's a complete 100% operation, isn't it?
Correct. So, I'd say for the most part, we have Landon, Caleb, myself, my brother, Rick did not swim for Swim Atlanta. Jeff did. So most of the coaches kind of grew up swimming for Swim Atlanta. So they kind of have the base of the philosophy of how things are done, and they kind of tweak what they want to do on their own site. But for the most part, everything is kind of taking from what my dad gave them and then kind of tweaking that to apply it to what kids they have.
I was going to say, so you said most of them swam for Swim Atlanta. Did they swim for your dad, or did they swim for various sites, or a little bit of both?
I would say we have 7 coaches currently that swam for my dad.
Okay. So there's a lot of history there, huh?
Correct. And that's kind of another nice thing. Like, Landon and I grew up swimming together. Jeff Hike, who's the head coach of one of our sites, is, I think, 6 or 7 years older, but we were in the same lane with him on training camps. So he's far ahead of us in terms of what he could do, but we still had that relationship when Scott, who's a year younger, when we were 9, 10, 11, 12, just swimming with Jeff.
Misguided war eagle.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that level of institutional knowledge, having both of you guys, Tom, I think you said mid-'80s, and Chris being a part of that team and coming through, what those expectations are. How do you guys go about, Tom, I know in the last, probably 5 years, maybe 10 years, you guys have made a major change in, maybe it's just the way you name your groups, but the kind of the design to your age group program. What are you trying to accomplish through the design at NBAC versus where you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
Yeah, well, as you get a little bit bigger, I mean, we're probably overdone with groups, but they all make sense. We have 250 kids in 17 groups, and trying to put the kids together that fit together, and when you have what, compared to Swim Atlanta, a relatively small team, you got to sort of combine some, either age groups or abilities, because you don't have enough of a, you know, certain kid. And it seems to flow very, we have anywhere from a 2 day a week group up to what's called the high performance group, which are our top kids. And they all, most of them seem, or not most of them. I mean, there's a probably more detail needs to go over right now, but it flows from that beginning group all the way up to the high performance group. We swim at in normal times, which is not right now.
Right.
We're three different pools, and each pool pretty much has a specific group of people at the pool. They would all end up, at least when it was normal, up to the March timeframe, they would all end up at Meadowbrook, which was where we had all of our, I guess, senior, top age group senior kids or whatnot. And then at one of the other facilities are all the entry level and, the 9 and 10s, 11, 12s to some degree. And it's a good flow from group to group. And every year, this year, I think Chris was saying, they didn't really move anybody around or anything like that. We sort of did the same thing. We didn't do anything until October, and it was very, very little, or not as much as we would have, just basically because of the space that we have and the limited amount of space. But, I think getting kids, the training groups are pretty much together, a homogeneous group of kids that can practice together and then are similar on the same level, generally close to the same age, but the age, it's not necessarily a 10 and under group, an 11 and 12 group. I may refer to them that way sometimes, but it's not really that. I mean, it could be 11. I mean, we don't have 16-year-olds with 10-year-olds, but although we did back when we had 100 kids, it's just, I had, Michael Phelps' 10-year-old with a 16-year-old, girl that was national level, because we just had one group of kids.
Well, I don't think you screwed that up, Tom. I think we'll give you a pass on that one.
Well, I don't know that I did anything, but Bob certainly didn't screw it up.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's getting a homogeneous group of kids that can practice together on the same skill level, and are going to do well. Are going to do well. Getting to the next step, getting the next level together. So,
Chris, what?
Chris, how do you guys structure things? So how do you guys structure things? You guys do age groups? Do you do it based on ability? Does every site kind of get to choose how they want to do that?
Correct. I think within the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, I've gone to more of what Tom does. And before I would move, if we had a really fast kid, I would just move them on based on times. Now I try and move groups of kids together that train well together. So if that group can work really well together, I'll move that group together. But if there's a group that, say, like this past one, I moved a ton of 13, 14 girls that all trained really, really well together, but held on to a bunch of the 13, 14 boys that had not quite figured out how to manage a workout, push each other, and kind of make that just like a group that they're going to be able to keep together for the next 6, 7 years till they go to college. Which I have found that has helped a ton in our development, not necessarily looking at the time of the kid, but looking at what they contribute to that practice to the kids around them.
Absolutely, Chris. You brought up another point, which is sometimes a difficult point, which creates a bunch of apparent discussions. Is it's no secret that the boys are behind the girls, absolutely mentally, and
well, and physically. I mean,
that's
so much later. I mean,
correct. And and sometimes, and to Chris's point also, is usually when we move kids, it's a whole group of them because they go together, and then when we don't move kids, it's not necessarily, there have been kids that are 3 or 4 groups from the high performance group that are faster than people in the high performance group because they're just not mentally ready to do it. Or they're a little young to start throwing that stuff at. And it's not a hold back thing. They're still in a very good group. It's just, so you get, when you're doing that stuff, you can't just look at the time. If you look at the times, you're gonna have probably not a great training group because kids, you get kids that'll set the world on fire at a meet, and you go to a practice and they can't save their life. And so anyway, I'm just sort of echoing, same thing as Chris said.
That's 100%. And I have 2 things that, like, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with those, but these are kind of takes that I've had on moving kids. Like, I try not to move a kid into a group if they're going to be up, even if they're probably close to be like at that group's level, but not to move them up if they're going to be immediately the slowest kid in that group. So I don't know if that's something that you guys, pay attention to when you're moving kids up. And then the other side of it is, Chris, and both you and Tom said moving kids up in groups, but I think you've also got to be willing to move kids to a different, maybe, depending on what the structure of your senior program is. If you've got a kid that's ready to go up, or 3 or 4 kids that are ready to go up into that next commitment level group, but maybe you have a senior development group that's there too, and you've got a group of kids that aren't necessarily ready for that developmental group, but they don't need to be in your top age group program group, being able to tell them and their parents, frankly, because that's where you're going to get most of the pushback, that I'm doing this because it's in their best interest long term, not because it fits the emotionality of what group you get moved into right now. You may go into at CMSA. CMSA has senior 1, senior 2, senior 3, where 3 is our highest group. I may put a kid in 1 or 2 because they're not ready for that jump to 3. But genuinely, if I've got a kid that comes through my program at 13, 14, that's going gangbusters, I'm going to try to move them into senior 2 or senior 3. They're not going to go through each tier of that group.
Yes. I don't know if that was a question, but
I mean, I just wanted to get y'all's take on, do you guys move kids that way?
Yeah, absolutely, and at least what we do, and there's a couple different directions people can go. They can go this way or they can go that way. They're still moving up, they're just moving a different direction. So yes, within us there are different directions, and to your point too is. You're right, spot on. I mean, there's a lot of cases where it's better for a kid who may be as fast as the next kid to be the fastest in their group than the slowest in their group. And we've had, I think there's been a lot of success keeping the kids down a group, if they want to call it down a group, but keeping them in a group rather than pushing them along too fast.
I mean, I agree. I think that's the biggest difference in my coaching in the last 4 or 5 years is doing that has made the group that I coach and then the next group better by keeping the kids together, not moving them up right away. And then when they get to the next group, they're not in the back, they're in the front. But I mean, that's another part of being able to work closely with my brother. I know what his workouts are. So I'm going to do parts of what he does in my group, so that when they get to that group, they know exactly what's coming, how to manage it. They've seen it. They may not have seen to the extent that he does, but they have seen sets that they will do in the next level, and they'll be successful in those sets. So when they get to that group, I tend to like them to try and kind of lead the group when they move up, rather than just play wall tag behind.
Yeah. And I try to use the analogy when Brian's sitting outside in front of a bunch of trees when parents ask me, like, you're still, like Tom said, you're still going up. There's a bunch of different branches you can go, but lots of different, everybody kind of can end up at the top of that highest point of that tree. It just may be a different route than somebody else. It doesn't have to be this perfect line of progression from group 1 to 2 to 3 to fit that. There's a lot of people are going to make a decision for themselves what level of commitment they really want to do this at. I think that's spot on. Brian, what's your take on move ups and moving kids in groups?
Oh, I mean, I try to move kids in groups. I think keeping kids together, keeping them with their friends, and doing that is good. We look at age a little bit. We have Texas high school swimming is like, I swear it takes up the whole year, so we have to deal with that quite a bit. So I do base a little bit more on grade now than I ever have, just because Texas high school swimming is what it is, and it makes it a lot easier for Jason as the national coach to deal with the high school side of things. And if I can keep most of the high school kids out of my group, it makes it a lot easier for me to deal with the age group side of things. So we definitely take that into consideration, but I try to move kids in groups. I think sometimes you're going to have kids really struggle if you move them up one at a time. I think it's just a different environment and a different expectation. And if they don't have somebody, brothers in arms around them, it makes it really tough. The other thing that I do is I definitely push the girls a lot faster than I push the guys. I'd say I probably hold the guys back a little bit just because they are at 13, 5 years from physical maturity, and the girls at 13 are probably already there or pretty close. So we do try to move the girls through the program a little bit faster than we do the boys. And that's something that I picked up when I was working in Nashville, competing against you, Tyler, and competing against you, Chris, back in the day. We definitely wait on the boys a lot. We had a really good group in 2008. I think we had about 16 high school boys make trials, and about 8 or 9 of those boys did not decide to be swimmers until they were about 15 or 16 years old, and they all turned out to be pretty good. So I learned a lot of patience when I was there. I joke around all the time about if the boys are coming to practice and having fun at 13, 14, as long as they're not endangering themselves or others, then we're doing a good job. With the girls, the level of expectation for me is a lot different. With the 13, 14 girls, if you're not training to try to be on the junior national or senior national level at that age, you're going to have a tough road unless you're just incredibly talented, incredibly gifted. I think there has to be some work done earlier on with the ladies. So we definitely take that into consideration. But, I mean, I move kids up. I'm kind of with Tom and Chris on this. I don't look a lot. I mean, I look at times, but I also look more at what we're doing in practice and look more at our attitude. I call it swimming IQ. I mean, if you've got a kid that's just totally naive, that doesn't understand and doesn't get it, then what are you doing moving them up? They got to learn before they're ready to go. If they don't know what pace is, or they don't look at a clock and know what they need to be going or care, why are they going to the national group? So we take a lot of that stuff into consideration. And I view that as an age group coach. I view that as my job to educate them. So once I get them to that point, then it's, let them fly.
All right, guys.
Real quick, I even suggested at one point when you have tryouts for kids on a team, you don't even need to put them in the water. You just need to talk to them and figure out and figure out what how well they're going to be able to figure things out and how well they're going to be able to comprehend things. I mean, just to Brian's point, I think that's a huge part of it. I mean, how many good swimmers have you seen just couldn't figure it out?
They're there for sure. Guys, we got about another minute or two in the show. Want to thank you guys for coming on and joining us. But any piece of advice for age group coaches out there, Chris, Tom, that you guys would want to leave for them before we sign off today?
Well, there's nothing wrong with being a lifelong age group coach. Too many coaches jump in and they want to coach the Michael Phelps of the world, right? At national level or whatever. And I'll tell you what, none of those guys ever got there without a great age group coach, and or very few of them. And what age group coaches do are vitally important to USA Swimming.
Amen.
I agree. What you got, Chris?
I agree. I agree. I think you're teaching at that level. You're teaching a lot of what they're going to take for the rest of their career, whatever they decide to do with that. So, I try and have an environment of come in, we're going to have a lot of fun, but we're also going to learn how to work and what it feels like to train at that level, and realize that swimming is a unique sport in the sense that you're going to have a way less athletic kid who is willing to put in the work and figure things out can be very successful in this sport, which I think they would have a harder time in like a basketball or a football.
Yeah, I think for me it's accountability, being the guy that helps them understand what it is they need to do and understanding the responsibilities they have if they want to have success. To me, that's I take it way beyond swimming. I mean, to me, I look at it and I've got kids that are doctors and lawyers and everything else, and I still talk to them a lot and I still stay in touch with them, and to me I'm not sure they would have got there if they hadn't had swimming and they hadn't had somebody like me that was willing to hold them accountable and get them to understand what life was going to be like. Because I think a lot of times, especially nowadays, things are a little too sugar-coated, and mom and dad are a little too willing to make everything okay, even when it shouldn't be okay. So that's kind of what I take enjoyment in. So
yeah, 100%.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think just remember you're teaching first, and not just teaching swimming. You're teaching them a lot of different things in their life. And so those relationships that you develop positively with them to encourage them to try to reach their potential or try to do things better than they think they can do them at that time. Because most of the time you see their potential and their success before they even see it. So I think you're teaching first. And then the training part of it is crucial and important. So you've got to be educated and you got to believe in what you're doing. And so do they. So that relationship is crucial. So coach them up all the time.
Quickly, a Brianism on that point. I say it all the time to the kids. Swim with the confidence that I have in you, not the confidence that you have in you.
There you go.
You're right. I can't believe in you more than you believe in yourself. So let's get up and go. Hey, before we sign off, guys, just want to say thanks to Tom and to Chris for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome content, guys. We appreciate it. And then thanks to Commit Swimming. For you guys out there, go to commitswimming.com. Check out a free trial. It is a simple, powerful workout management tool that swim coaches can use to get their teams better than they've ever been before. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week. Everybody
Thank you, guys. Thank Commit.
Join us on the Swim Monkey.
Swim Monkey TV. On the Monkey.